The Black Knight satellite, myth, evidence, and why trust is not proof. Back in December 1998, during a space shuttle mission STS-88, NASA astronauts photographed a dark, irregular object floating in polar orbit about Earth. Those images are still publicly available on NASA's own archives. NASA's explanation is simple: space debris, a piece of thermal insulation that detached during an EVA. And if you search NASA's database today, there's still explanation you will find. But there's no comprehensive technical report, no published release failure analysis, no detailed documentation showing that the object detached and how the situation was remediated. And this is where the problem begins. Because when the public is asked to accept an explanation, not because it can be independently verified, but because the source is an authority, we're no longer dealing with science. We are dealing with trust management. And the Black Knight case is near perfect example why that matters. The first thing we need to understand is that the Black Knight satellite is not a single discovery. It's a retrospective constructions, hard word, built on unrelated elements. Back in the 1920s, we have early radio anomalies. We have in the 1950s military statements. We have astronaut observations, and finally we have the pictures taken by STS-88 in 1998. The name Black Knight satellite did not exist when these events occurred. It emerged later, after the space age, when disparate anomalies were worn into a single narrative. That does not mean that the event is fabricated. It means that the story was assembled after the fact. And that distinction matters. In the 1920s and 30s, radio engineers and amateurs in Europe and North America reported something strange. The signals were returned seconds later, not milliseconds. These things were called long-delayed echoes. They were documented in technical journals at the time, not as science fiction, but as a real engineering puzzle. Today, physicists often point to the ionosphere and the magnetosphere explanations. But here's the key point. There is no single definitive explanation that closed the case. Instead, the phenomenon is graduated as noise. And noise is not a neutral category. That is an administrative one. As historian of science, Thomas Kuhn famously described that anomalies that does not fit existing paradigms tend to be ignored, not because they are disproven, but because they are inconvenient. In the 1970s, Scottish writer and amateur astronomer Duncan Lunan attempted to analyze these echoes statistically. He cautiously suggested that there might be a structure in the delayed patterns. In popular retellings, this became decoded messages pointing to the star system called Epsilon Boötis. But the historical record is clear. No verifying decoding ever occurred. Lunan later distanced himself from this interpretation, and no independent confirmation exists. This is a textbook example how speculation hardens into myth, not through evidence but repetition. The photographs from STS-88 remain public. NASA did never try to hide them. What is missing is process. There is no publicly released object identification report, part number trace, EVA anomaly analysis, operational remediation record, or something similar. Instead, there is a conclusion. This is not scientific transparency. This is institutional communication. And with a simple explanation, transparency would be easy, not to avoid it. NASA is a scientific institution, but is also a federal agency, politically accountable, intertwined with the Department of Defense, and is doing strategic communication. It's not the same as NASA is lying, but it means that truth is not the only constraint. Public stability, funding, geopolitical optics, this all matters. History proves this repeatedly, from Area 51 to classified aerospace programs later acknowledged decades after official denials. In 2004, NSA declassified a paper called Communication with Extraterrestrial Intelligence back from the 1960s. It contains no signals, no binary codes, no decoded messages similar, but it demonstrated something crucial, that serious classified considerations such as scenarios exist hidden from public view over 40 years. If one such document exists, how many others still do? And how do we know they don't shape what it is and what isn't to be said publicly? Science today is often presented as a verdict, not a process. Science says becomes a way to end discussion, but philosophers like Karl Popper and Paul Feyerabend warned explicitly against this. Science without falsibility is not science, it's technocracy. The Black Knight satellite is probably not an alien satellite. But the way it is explained reveals something far more important.
A system that expects trust without verification.
And that is far more dangerous than any hypothetical object in orbit.